All right, and welcome back to an overdue episode of the Florida Boat Guy. I'm here on project day getting this boat ready to go to Key West, hopefully in about 2 weeks if the weather cooperates. Trying to get out to the Tortugas again. I'd really like to get to Garden Key. Oh no, I went to Garden Key last time. This time I think it's Loggerhead Key where the lighthouse is. Maybe explore a little more there, but I'm trying to get the boat ready. Those that recall, it's about a 150-mile round trip journey. And trying to get the last few pieces of this boat that are original completely replaced. So I had a few projects that I did not film. We'll show you real quick. Today, digging into the fuel system, the last piece that's really all original, and it's not going well. I'll show you here. So here's my fuel tank, sending unit. This is all replaced. These fuel lines are about 7 years old. My plan is to replace these, but they are tied down in this back compartment. We've got a divider here, so unfortunately it looks like my new seat's gonna have to completely come off. I'm gonna have to cut out, there's already a cutout here, the water tank's back here and the fuel lines run through there, so all this is gonna have to come out. I'm gonna have to cut that out and get the fuel lines that run back that way. But the problem I'm running into right now, which is a real fun one, I was replacing the anti-siphon valve as part of this and started to unscrew it. This is original. The aluminum just snapped right off of the pickup tube, and I thought that might be a problem. Unscrewed it, just popped right off. So now I've got this pickup tube is worthless. It's got to come out of the tank. It's been in here since 2005 and has completely corroded, and I've tried everything I can. You see it's in this hole here, so it's real hard. You know, I've tried my larger wrenches. It's not wanting to move, so I'm gonna come up with a little bit of maybe a concoction here to try and loosen this up a little bit. So I don't know if this is gonna work. I found it on YouTube, a couple guys. I'm gonna mix a little bit of acetone in here, some brake cleaner, and some automatic transmission fluid. It's supposed to be a home concoction. And I've got a Q-tip because I don't want to get any acetone on my plastic tank. Acetone will have a negative effect on my polyurethane plastic fuel tank. So I'm going to get a Q-tip, try and apply just around the edges of that pickup tube where it screws into the tank. Let that sit for a while and hopefully it'll loosen up a little bit. Not feeling real confident right now, but we're going to give it a shot. Get the Q-tip in there. Put that all around, let it soak in. Clean up those threads a little bit. And this is a two-piece section here, and the problem you have is the pickup tube screws into this fitting here on the tank, and if that comes loose, we've got a really big problem. What we want is just this top of the pickup tube to come unscrewed and not the actual fitting in the tank. So I'm trying to be real careful with this. Going to be real embarrassing if the fuel guy has to go in to the mechanic for help with this. So I'm hoping, so that my pride doesn't take a hit, that I can get this out all on my own. So I'm going to let this sit for a little while and see what happens. In the meantime, I'll show you some of the other projects I've been working on here. Okay, so everything else on the boat's been coming along really well. Like I said, did not film everything. One of my main things I was concerned with was the high voltage distribution system. It was still original. So I ended up getting some, what I had before was just a regular Perco battery switch, and I switched over to some BEP switches, an integrated solution. They're out of New Zealand, and everything's actually manufactured in New Zealand. So let me show you here what I've got going on. Okay, so here's my new setup. This is really cool. I've got my two batteries completely separate. I got a house bank and a starting bank. On my starting bank, these are my high amperage, so the engine, and then I also have my windlass on the starting battery. That keeps the rest of the house, the lights, the electronics, everything up front of the boat, refrigerator, the head, all of the things we've got going on are on the house bank. And then this is my battery combiner, automatically combines them when the engine's running and charges the two together. When the engine turns off, it separates them. And then now I've actually got some breakers, one for the windlass, one for the house bank. The prior owner had actually taken out the breaker that was in here. I had no protection on the main house bank. And I knew that was a problem. We don't need a fire hazard when we're offshore. So all of these, I'm actually pretty proud of all this. Redid all these wires. They're tin copper marine. And then added this negative bank here, and all of the connections I re-terminated with new lug nuts and heat shrink. The original ones were coming loose. We had holes in some of the insulation. So all of this has been completely redone. This is the main 6-gauge house ground. And then up top, we've got a new 4-gauge coming in for the windlass. Last thing, kind of silly, but we're really excited about is made this little platform, found a microwave on Amazon, and this boat is always tight on space, but found this little pocket here. Wanted to get off the ground and keep the water, and it's tucked in underneath this overhang here to keep the water off of it. Little Amazon microwave, but pretty cool. Anytime we're boat camping, we can make popcorn. And I was not sure how I was going to mount this originally, and what ended up finding was some threshold material that just sticks on here. I put that on the bottom and the back and each side, and then I shoved that in there. It fit perfectly. I've actually taken this boat out a couple ways. This microwave does not move at all. Obviously can pull out and have to drill into the boat to do it, but that threshold, it's basically for doors or windows, keeps it in there nice and tight. So pretty cool. We're ready for some offshore camping. We've got the microwave now, so that in addition to the grill, we should be in good shape. And then showed you the table last time. So gonna get back to the fuel tank. Okay, a little bit of redneck engineering. No decent mechanic would ever do it this way. The problem is there's no room to get down inside there with any leverage. So I've got the biggest crescent wrench I could find and trying to do some leverage this way, and I felt it move. So I think the trick was getting a little of that acetone solution down in there to loosen it up. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, we're moving. Yeah, all right. Okay, so old pickup tube is out, and I've got a new one here, and I've measured the tank, and what I realized, and this is pretty common, the original pickup tube was almost 1.5 inches off the bottom of the tank. Didn't go all the way to the bottom, so I'm glad I checked that. That tells me there's a good 10-15% of reserve at the bottom of this tank that this pickup tube was not getting to. So I'm actually cutting the new one just slightly longer, just to give me a little bit more access, and then angling the bottom because we don't want it flat on the bottom, because you know, if we get too close to the bottom and too much suction there, we can have issues with fuel pressure. So got a little bit of an angle there. Gonna get this in. Some people use sealant, some don't. I've got this Permatex fuel resistant thread sealant. I'm gonna put just a little bit, just a tiny bit along at the top. I want to make sure none of that gets in the tank, but just to seal up and make sure we've got a good fitting right there. And so gonna get that screwed in. We should be ready to go. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna get that connected and should be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to take a pause on this project. I've got the new pickup tube in the tank, and what I'm trying to figure out next is, one of the whole reasons I wanted to do this is I'm seeing a lot on older boats where the anti-siphon valve, which is this little piece here that goes into the pickup tube, is either corroding or clogging up with debris and causing a motor to shut down. I have many customers, this happened to them offshore, and it's this tiny little $10 part, and I don't know if you can see, I'll try to have the light on in here. There's a little ball and a spring in there, and it's a check valve, and they put these in for safety reasons. So if you happen to get a hole in your fuel line, and the fuel line comes disconnected down towards the engine, you don't have a siphon where gas is just coming out of the tank. The problem is that is such an extremely rare situation that would ever happen, that you would have a loose fuel line just hanging around that happened to have some sort of where you had the gas just flowing into your bilge. Yes, it could happen, but very rare. And almost every mechanic that I talk to pulls these things out of here. And so this has the ball valve in it, and then this is just a straight. You can see all the way through there, versus this one you cannot. So normally, I mean, I have to blow pretty hard to get that valve to open. And you can imagine just a little bit of corrosion. If you had maybe a little bit of moisture, water in your tank, or if you had some sediment, and that spring starts to corrode, boom, no fuel flow. So I like to take this out, put this in. The problem I've got now is that the top of the pickup tube is aluminum, and this is brass. I can't use brass and aluminum next to each other. So I'm either going to try and take this check valve out of this aluminum fitting, or I'm going to have to get on Amazon and find another one. I'm also not feeling up to replacing all of the fuel lines because of the fact that I'd have to take up my back chair. I'd have to cut out all the sealant around that last hatch, which is over where the water tank is, yank all that up to get to where the rigging tubes are, where the fuel line goes. So what I'm going to try and do is just get a coupler and connect those two, because I have to extend the fuel line, and I'll show you here in a second. So all kinds of problems. I'm kind of over this project at the moment, so going to take a pause, see what I need to get on Amazon, and pick it back up hopefully tomorrow in the next couple days. Okay, so I had a chance to hit the pause button on this project. Needed to step away for a day. This became way more involved than I was planning on, but I did find on Amazon an aluminum straight 1/4 inch NTP pipe fitting, 2 3/8 inch inside diameter hose barb for the fuel line. Got this piece overnight. Should go into the pickup tube there, and then I will replace the fuel lines at another point in time. Right now they really don't look awful, so I'm going to splice in another tube from there and attach it to here, and hopefully see if we can get some fuel flowing through the new pickup tube, start the motor, test it out, and at least be done with this piece for now. Alright, so there's the final prop. We got a little loop there coming off the pickup tube, new fitting, and then for now I just have a coupler right there, brass coupler between that and the original fuel line. And then on another day we'll replace the rest of these fuel lines, going all the way back in one continuous piece. But for now, this at least gets me back on the water. New pickup tube, and replaced all of these fittings here. We know we've got a nice clean flow of fuel from the bottom of the tank all the way to the fuel filter and to the motor. So that's what I've got for now, and I'm gonna start the engine and hopefully she runs. Okay, so fuel system updates, everything is replaced, at least what I want to replace today, minus the fuel lines. Now my main goal with that project was actually just checking the anti-siphon valve. Now this is a new one, this is not the old one. But as I suspected, the pickup tube, the anti-siphon valve, all of those components were original to this boat. They were 20 years old. So this is a $10 part. And like I said, I've seen a ton of customers that are offshore and their engines are dying. Their primer bulbs are collapsing because they're not getting enough fuel, and it is killing the motors offshore, this tiny little part. And that is what was starting to make me nervous, because I didn't know what the status of this boat was. I never looked at it. It's buried under the deck there. I never thought about the fuel system, other than the fact that I get to see it all the time with my customers. So this gives me huge peace of mind knowing that the pickup tube is replaced. I do now know how far off the bottom my new pickup is. I have removed the check valve and just have a straight fitting there, so no possible issues as far as fuel goes. And my goal, especially when I'm going offshore, is to make sure something simple as this does not leave me stranded, having to call for a tow from Sea Tow or, God forbid, the Coast Guard over something silly. So that was kind of the goal. Ended up being a bigger project than expected. At least now it's done. So can move on to the next thing. Almost ready to get this boat to the Keys. Okay, welcome back to the Florida Boat Guy. Now this is gonna be a pretty quick episode. I was working on the boat. The first part about this video, doing the fuel pickup tube. Wanted to take it out on the water today, make sure we're getting full fuel flow, no issues whatsoever. Anytime I do anything major mechanical, I want to take it out in my local waters and test it out before going down to the Keys, hopefully soon, if the weather cooperates. Also trying out my new battery switches, making sure they're connecting. I'm getting good voltage, able to use the windlass up and down without seeing any voltage drop, which is awesome. So everything's working really well here. And what's cool about this time of year, we're in spring obviously, it's before the summer storms start coming. The water's still chilly, reading 68 degrees right now, so the water's still fairly chilly, and so it's beautiful right now. There's not any sediment. I keep seeing pictures of the Dunedin Causeway online, and I had not been out here at least a month since my last trip to Caladisi. So I wanted to get the drone up. I gotta get some pictures of this water while it's still beautiful this time of year. I can see straight down to the bottom. It is beautiful. It looks like we are down in the Keys or the Caribbean right now. So gonna get the drone up, fly a little bit, a couple of those shots, and that'll be it for this episode. All right, enjoying this beautiful day, and I'm going through Honeymoon Pass right now. So just want to show you how pretty this water is right now. Absolutely amazing. Don't know if the camera really picks up how beautiful it is. We've got Honeymoon on the right and Caladisi Beach on the left here.